Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Justin Jones from Revere Health Weight Loss and Nutrition Center. I'm here for our first Facebook Live event. Thanks for joining us today, and we're excited to have you. We've been doing group visits for a couple years now, and we decided to involve more people. We would do group visits via Facebook Live. So if you have comments or questions, message me. This is my first time doing this, so we'll try to pay attention and try not to mess up. And let me know if you have any questions as we go along. Okay, so today I am going to talk about some of the fundamentals of weight loss. If weight loss was easy, we'd all be thinner. It'd be a lot less work, but there's a lot of work, and weight loss isn't easy. So today I'm going to talk about some of the fundamental principles that can help you in your weight loss journey. So let me use a comparison. So imagine you had a stool you were going to sit on, and if it had one leg, imagine how unsteady that would be. You add a second leg, that's going to be a little bit better. You add a third or maybe a fourth, and suddenly your stool is very stable. So today as I talk, I want you to kind of keep that in mind. You know, what kind of stool are you creating figuratively as you think about your weight loss journey? You know, there's a lot of weight loss programs out there that have kind of a one-legged stool. So it's all a certain type of meal replacement, or it's a certain type of diet that everyone goes on, or a medication that everyone takes. In my opinion, that isn't a very solid foundation. And so as we talk, you know, I want to kind of paint that picture of having a four-legged stool where there's strength in the different things that you're doing. So the four legs I'm going to talk about today are nutrition, physical activity, behaviors and accountability, and medications and tools. So four different kind of stable legs to this stool. Let's talk nutrition first. So if you think about how to lose weight, exercise is great and important. Accountability is important. Medicines can be helpful, but nutrition is by far probably the most important thing. The people lose the bulk of their weight based on nutritional patterns and dietary plans. So the BC Medicine Association, which I'm a part of, has this statement about nutrition, and let me read it to you, and then I'm going to dissect it a little bit. It's kind of in doctor talk. So it says, the best nutritional plan is a plan that is evidence-based, quantitatively sound, qualitatively appropriate, and one the patient prefers and is therefore most likely to adhere to over a lifetime. So let's dissect this a little bit. So your nutritional plan needs to first be evidence-based. There's so many diets out there, and many are somewhat kind of gimmicky. And so you need to find one that has some evidence for its use. Now, luckily, there's a lot of evidence for lots of different diets. There's evidence for low-calorie diets. There's evidence for low-carb diets. There's evidence for even things that are a little bit more fad-like, intermittent fasting or keto diets. So there's evidence for lots of these things. So you got to make sure you find something, though, that's evidence-based. And that's one piece of it. Second, you need, it says here, quantitatively sound. So you can have the greatest, nutritional plan, but if the quantity is too much, you're not going to succeed. So even if you do something aggressive like meal replacement, but if you eat too many of those bars they give you, you're not going to be able to stick to your plan and have your weight loss be successful. So it has to be quantitatively sound. Qualitatively appropriate. So this refers to the quality of food, the types of food that you're eating. So I'll talk about this in a minute, but a calorie isn't always a calorie. So if you had 100 calories of Oreo cookies and 100 calories of celery, do you think your body's going to process those the same? Not necessarily. Your body's going to look at those calories differently because they have different macronutrients and different ingredients. Then it says here, one the patient prefers. So if you pick a diet that you hate, how successful is that going to be? Probably not super successful. So it needs to be something you like. Now, you can, for a period of time, do something that's not your favorite, but long-term, that's not going to be successful. And that's the last phrase here. It says, one that the patient is most likely to adhere to over a lifetime. So it's appropriate to have a dietary pattern for a short period of time that then you transition to another one long-term. So it doesn't have to be you're going on a low carb diet and you're going to be on that for the rest of your life, but that could be a diet that you start with and then transition to something else. So a lot of our patients, for example, love to try keto. There can be some good benefits to that, but a lot of people can't stick with that for very long. And so they try keto, and then, a few months later, they're kind of burned out. And so you take what you can of that dietary pattern and then transition it to something maybe similar, like a low carb diet, and then ride that out for a period of time. So again, we want something that has some evidence for use, so avoid any gimmicky or fad types of things. And we can always help you try to decide what is gimmicky and what is real. Quantities that are appropriate, quality of nutrients that are good, and then one that you can stick with for a short period of time and then extend that over a lifetime. So again, I often use the term dietary pattern, and that, we don't kind of like the word just diet alone. That has some negative connotations, and diet in a lot of ways sounds to people like starvation or failure or this or that. So I like the term dietary pattern. And so you always need to make sure you have a dietary pattern, and that can, again, evolve over time. But as you look at your weight loss, if you don't have a dietary pattern, you need to come up with one. So let's talk a little bit about insulin. So insulin is an important hormone in our body that helps bring sugar from the blood into the cells of the body. And it's a good hormone, but it can be a little weight gain promoting as well. So you imagine you take sugar from the bloodstream and put it in the cells. If your cells don't burn it off, it's going to turn it into fat. So insulin promotes fat production, triglyceride, which is a form of cholesterol synthesis, and it inhibits fat from breaking down. So as you kind of pick your dietary pattern, you need to pick one that doesn't stimulate too much insulin release. Hence the reason commonly we like lower carbohydrate type of diets, because the carbs really turn up the insulin production. So you want to be careful about too many carbohydrates. So let's talk again about a calorie does not always equal a calorie. I've traditionally always thought, you just got to have a calorie goal. For example, 1,200 calories a day, and if I stick with that, I'm going to lose weight. But again, the quality of the calories really do matter. Your body processes the calories and burns them, but not always in the same way. When you eat carbohydrates, your body releases lots of insulin. When you eat proteins, there's different hormones that are released. So again, your body can process those differently. And so you need to think of the quality of those calories going in to make sure that you're getting the right, your body's processed them in a healthy way. So what are the different nutritional patterns that are out there? There are many, many different types, and that in some ways makes it kind of tricky because it's hard to know which pattern to stick with. But the good news is almost any of them can work if you can stick with them and be consistent. So we talk in our clinic a lot about lower calorie diets. A low calorie diet is a diet from 1,200 to 1,800 calories a day. For women, typically 12 to 1,500, and men 12 to 1,800. Those are, again, low calorie diets. The nutrients can be lots of different things. You can have lower carbs, you can have lower proteins, lots of other things like that. But lower calorie diets can be effective. So then there's something called very low calorie diets. Very low calorie diets are about 800 calories a day. They should be only done with medical supervision. In our program, we use something called OptiFast. OptiFast is a meal replacement program that can keep you at a very, very low calorie diet, so 800 calories a day. If you end up going in the low calorie realm, 12 to 1,800 calories, there's the low fat and the low carb. Low carb, if you hear keto, what they're really talking about is keeping your carbohydrates very, very low. So carbohydrates less than 50 grams will usually put you into what's called ketosis. And ketosis is where your body starts burning fat. When people are in ketosis, there's not a lot of free sugar floating around. It's these ketone bodies. And the nice thing about ketosis for a lot of people is they feel less hungry. It helps with cravings. That's why so many people kind of like this ketotic type of diet or ketogenic diet, because it puts you into ketosis and makes you feel full. The hard thing, like I said, is you can't have very many carbs at all to be in ketosis. So it's less than 50 grams a day. So if you do some math, carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. So if you're at 50 grams, it's less than 200 calories a day in carbohydrates. So you can see that's not very much. You don't have to eat many pieces of bread, like maybe one, to get above that 50 gram of carb level. So again, we're fans of lower carb diets and even keto diets, but again, sometimes hard to sustain. They can be a nice jump start. So let's talk now about, again, some of the advantages of lower carb diets. There's some good evidence that lower carb diets, you lose weight quicker. In fact, most studies show the first 6 months you lose more weight if you are on a lower carb diet. You typically have less food cravings, and like I said before, you have less insulin. And so having less insulin will stimulate less fat production and more burning of fat. So hence the reason we're going to probably guide the person who doesn't have a dietary pattern in mind that they want to do to a lower carbohydrate type of diet because of those advantages. And again, some people that want to keep their calories even lower need to move to a very low calorie diet, which again is a meal replacement type of diet. So that's dietary patterns. Pretty critical. You always need to make sure as you're trying to kind of create this stool, this foundation, you got to have a strong dietary pattern. And again, it can evolve over time. You can go from low carb to keto to even just a low calorie diet that's more nutritionally broad. But generally speaking, those low calorie, but that dietary pattern has to be solid and it's something you stick with. So let me pause and see if we have any questions. It looks like no questions yet, so I'll keep moving along. So let's talk about exercise, physical activity. So one of the myths of weight loss is that exercise is critical for weight loss. And the sad reality is people don't lose tons of weight because of the exercise that they do. Now, that doesn't mean it's not important. It just means that the nutritional piece, that leg of your stool that's nutrition, needs to be the strongest because you have to do a lot of exercise to burn the calories you need to lose weight. So for example, imagine how quickly you might be able to eat 1,000 calories. Quick milkshake, big burger with fries, you're 1,000 calories easy. To go exercise off those 1,000 calories is going to take you a long time. So you gotta exercise, but you're not going to get the bulk of your weight loss because of exercise. So why do we care? Why do we push exercise so much? Well, although exercise isn't critical for weight loss, unless at really, really high levels. So for example, if you're on the show The Biggest Loser, they're exercising just large periods of time, and you burn so many calories that they become calorically negative and they lose weight. But most of us, that's not practical. You don't have 3 hours a day to really exercise. Exercise is critical for weight maintenance. So we do all this work to lose weight, and then if we don't exercise, most of us will slowly start to increase little by little. And again, it's hard when we're at a plateau. We really need to hit the exercise harder because of some hormonal changes that I'll talk about in a minute. There's something called the National Weight Control Registry, and I've talked to a lot of patients about this, but this is a registry of patients who have lost weight and kept it off for at least 2 years. In fact, if you look at the National Weight Control Registry, there are, on average, people have lost 66 pounds and kept it off for 5.5 years, which is pretty good. I mean, because most of us lose weight and then we gain it back. But these people have lost a good amount of weight and they've kept it off. And so they've analyzed kind of what habits or characteristics these people have to help them keep their weight off. And 90% of them exercise at least 1 hour a day. So that's a lot. Most of us, it's hard to find an hour a day to exercise. But again, for these people that have lost weight and actually maintained it, they've exercised. So again, as you think about your dietary pattern, and which is super critical, you got to complement it with the exercise and physical activity to make all your hard work and your gains sustain. So weight maintenance, exercise is critical. The other thing is with physical activity, it's not just about formal exercise. Formal exercise is important. However, you need to increase activity. Sedentary time is really a problem for people. We don't move enough. And so trying to find little things to help us move a little bit more. In fact, today I was debating, rather than sit here, this is kind of a bad example, I really should be out walking and talking, and maybe next time I'll do that. I thought it might be a little logistically challenging, but find those opportunities to move and not just sit. Be less sedentary. So there's physical activity. So we've got a dietary pattern you need. That's one fundamental. And then you need a fitness plan, exercise. And again, if you're plateaued and you're doing 30 minutes of exercise a day, you're going to have to probably find some time to do more if you really want to lose weight. Let's talk about behaviors for just a little bit. That's the third leg of this stool. And one big one is accountability. We did a survey of our patients a couple years ago and asked, what's the most important thing we've done for you? And greater than 90% said helping with accountability. Weight loss is hard. It can be a lonely journey. It's hard to keep yourself honest a lot of the time. And accountability to yourself and to others is pretty critical. This National Weight Control Registry looked at that a little bit, and people who keep their weight off, they tend to weigh themselves at least one time a week. So again, holding themselves accountable. 55% of those people use some kind of program to help keep them accountable. So, like a program like ours where you have to come in periodically. Someone's going to ask, how did you do on your goals? They're going to weigh you. They might check your body composition. Again, that accountability is pretty critical. So as you're looking at behaviors, you need to have someone help keep you accountable. In our program, we always try to goal set on, different behaviors that people might have. So for example, you might set a goal to not eat after 7 p.m., or you might just try to keep your portion size lower, drink more water. Any of these behaviors can help, but then you got to be accountable to them. Tracking. We always talk to people about tracking. There's, people kind of probably hate us because we always talk tracking. But again, it can be super critical to help people stay accountable. So there was a study of 1,700 people that were keeping a food diary. So, like a MyFitnessPal or something like that. And they found that those that journaled, food diaried, they lost twice the amount of weight of people that didn't. So again, that accountability is super helpful. So again, if you're not tracking, track. And there's lots of apps out there. Most of our patients use MyFitnessPal. It's simple, it's easy, it's very complete in the foods that are there. There's another one called Lose It that a lot of people have. And then sometimes I recommend photo journal. So for some people, it's just too hard to get MyFitnessPal and constantly be putting information in there. It becomes onerous. And so there's these apps, like, again, this one's called U8, where it's a photo-only app. So you take pictures of your food, and as you do that, then you can make a comment on if this was a good choice or a bad choice, and whether it's keeping you on your path. And so that's just another simple way. Every time you go to eat something, you pull out your phone, you take a picture in this app, and it just kind of guides you on path. If you take a picture of a donut, you might hesitate saying, that's not on path. I might push that aside and not do it. So again, behaviors are super important. Accountability is huge. Let us help you be accountable. And that's one of the most critical things that we do, is help people stay accountable to yourself. Track. Find a way to track. Okay, next let's talk about tools. So there's a lot of things we use to try to help people lose weight. We've talked about nutritional patterns, we talked about fitness, we've talked about behaviors and accountability. Now let's talk about things like medications. If there was a medication that made weight loss automatic and was magical, we'd all be on it. There aren't, but the medicines can be super helpful. I sometimes use the analogy with patients of, going in your backyard, and if you had to dig a hole in your backyard, you could get down and use your hands and dig a little hole, and you would have some success. If you have a little shovel, a little hand shovel, man, it's going to be a whole lot easier. Imagine that medicine is a shovel. If you don't put any effort in, the shovel will do nothing. It'll just sit there. But with some good effort, you suddenly become a lot more efficient. And so think of medications as a tool rather than a cure or a solution. Because that's really what they are, is they're tools. We see lots and lots of people who are quick to get on medicines, but they don't do a whole lot more, and they almost always their weight is pretty flat. They may have an initial drop and then they get flat and stay flat. And so the medicine will work about as well as the effort you put in. There are 6 FDA-approved weight loss medications. We use several of them, and there's some others that are what we call off-label, meaning that they're used for other things, but they can help with weight loss. We also have to pay attention to weight gain promoting medications. A lot of time we worry about throwing medicines at people to help them lose weight when they're on 3 medications that cause weight gain, insulin for diabetes or other medicines for pain, or blood pressure medicines even. There are lots of medications that can help, that can cause weight gain. So again, as you work with us, we're going to say, okay, what's your nutritional pattern? What's your fitness plan? What behaviors do you have? And if we need a little bit more stability, adding a medication can be super helpful. You have to think of weight as a disease. It's a disease process. So just imagine you go into your doctor and he says, okay, you have diabetes, and I'm going to have you eat healthy and exercise and try to get you to lose weight. All those things are important, but I'm going to give you this medicine as well. And then in 3 months, after you've been on medication, your blood sugar looks great, you're doing well, and your doctor says, okay, I'm going to take that medicine and throw it away. Wouldn't be very logical, right? I mean, that medication is helping with that control. Now, over time, perhaps we can get rid of that medication, but it takes time. And again, the medications sometimes are needed long-term. So same thing with weight. Weight issues are diseases, and sometimes short-term solutions need to be extended, and medications need to be used longer periods of time. So again, just keep that in mind. Some people go to surgical approaches. I'm a fan of surgery. I've seen lots of people, though, even recently, who we're seeing in our clinic who've had surgery several years back and now are gaining weight. And it's not a long-term solution. It can be helpful, but it has to be combined with everything else. So again, it's a one-legged stool if all you're doing is having surgery, and then you'll lose weight, but over time you'll kind of gain it back a little bit. So again, surgery is a very, very powerful tool, but if not combined with everything else, it isn't very helpful for long-term weight maintenance. Okay. Let's talk. A lot of people ask me questions about plateaus. Plateaus are hard. We all reach plateaus, and they're frustrating. We're doing really well, we're losing weight, and then suddenly we plateau. And we might even have a very solid stool. We have these 4 legs, we have a good dietary pattern, we're exercising an hour a day, and we're using a medication, and suddenly our weight is flat. This is a frustrating thing with weight loss, and there's not really an easy answer to why that happens. For everyone, it's probably a little bit different. On average, most of us get complacent. We don't stick to our patterns quite as well. We quit exercising. We don't take our medicines consistently. We cheat a little bit more. So that's probably the first thing to look at, is analyze your tools and say, what am I doing? What can I adjust? Because that's, very commonly we're just using we've gotten a little bit complacent. So that's one thing. The other thing is there's a lot of physiology to weight loss. Our bodies, unfortunately, try to return us back to the point we were before. So when we lose weight, there's a hormone produced by our stomach called ghrelin. Think of growl, like your stomach's growling, ghrelin. It's released in the stomach, and it makes us hungry. When we lose weight, our brain tells our stomach to make more ghrelin. Even though we don't need more fat on our body, our brain still says to do it. And so ghrelin makes us hungry. And so as you lose weight and you're 6 months out, 12 months out, your body's making you more hungry. So that's one problem. There's another hormone called leptin. Leptin is produced by our fat. And when we lose fat, which is a good thing, we lose leptin. And when we lose leptin, again, our metabolism slows and our hunger goes up. And so that leptin's a good hormone. Ghrelin's a bad hormone, makes us hungry. Leptin's good, but when we lose weight, we lose fat that produces it, and then our leptin levels drop. The other thing that happens is as we lose weight, our muscles become more efficient. Now, efficiency sounds like a good thing, right? Our muscles are more efficient, that must be good. It's actually bad. We want our muscles to be less efficient so they'll burn more calories. But as we lose weight, our brain tells our muscles, hey, you got to do more with less because I got to conserve energy. And so some people, especially people who have lost a lot of weight, their muscles become more efficient to the point where, they just don't burn 300 to 500 calories that they were burning before they lost their weight. And so that can be a problem when you suddenly aren't burning as many calories and you're eating the same amount. It's going to be hard to maintain that weight loss, and people will start to go up a little bit. So is it hopeless? Is there nothing we can do? Well, I'd say no. It's a challenge though, and it has to be something we really fight. So again, the first thing you have to do is really look at the things you're doing and say, hey, what can I tighten up? Am I really being as accountable as I need to be myself? Maybe I need to weigh myself a little bit more. Maybe I need to do more tracking and whatnot. My dietary pattern, maybe I need to solidify that. Sometimes we just have to shake things up a little bit. So our bodies sometimes respond to a change. So if we're on a medication, sometimes we have to change to something else or add something to it. If you're on a dietary pattern that you've had for a while, you maybe have to switch to something a little bit different. So maybe you have to say, I'm going to do therapeutic fasting for a couple of months and see if I can get me off this plateau. Or again, maybe a keto diet for a period of time. Or maybe you go on a meal replacement. You work with us and we put you on an 800 calorie a diet day. Or again, if you still have a lot of weight to lose, maybe that's time to say, okay, let me add a surgical approach in. The other thing is, as much as we like to say we can always get you to your cosmetic weight, which is the goal. We want you to be cosmetically where you want to be, but sometimes that's really hard. And so sometimes we have to be somewhat satisfied with not reaching our exact goal. Hopefully we're close, but sometimes we just can't quite get there. So again, for plateaus, understand there's physiology to it. It's not typically about bad choices. We're typically making pretty good choices. Yeah, there's some indiscretion, but we all have some indiscretion. So solidify your choices the best you can, and then work with your weight management team on trying to adjust something, either a different dietary pattern, lower calories, lower carbs, fasting, something along those lines. If you're on a medicine, maybe pluck it and put something new in there. Ask your doctor to look at weight gain promoting medicines. Maybe, that depression medicine, which has been good for your mood, suddenly is keeping you from getting over the hump weight-wise, and maybe we need to replace that with a different one. So again, medicines, either weight gainers or weight losers, can be important. And then, like I said before, there really is some good evidence that upping exercise can help. Again, if you can get over 300 minutes a week, which is 60 minutes, 5 days a week, you can really find some improvement in plateaus. So let me quickly summarize. As you think about kind of where you are weight loss wise, just kind of imagine, like my analogy I said at the beginning, what kind of stool are you sitting on? Are you on like a one-legged stool? You're doing everything with, calories and that's all you're focused on. It's going to be a little bit wobbly. Add a second stool, a second leg or a third leg or a fourth leg, and make your foundations of weight loss really solid. We need that solid base. And again, sometimes it needs constant kind of adjusting. What are your goals at? Leave here today and set a goal that you haven't set before. Make sure your goals are specific and measurable, attainable. We refer to these as SMART goals. If you just say, I'm going to lose 5 pounds in the next month, that's a great goal, but how are you going to get there? You might say, I'm going to walk enough to burn 1,200 calories through exercise this week. So that gives you a specific number, a specific goal. It's what we call a SMART goal. So I hope everyone leaves here kind of motivated to make some different changes, change things up. If you need some assistance, we're here for you. We would hope we could be an important part of your weight management team, our dietitian, our trainers, our therapists, and then again, our medical providers and our health coaches are all here to help you reach your goals. So hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully this has helped you understand a little bit some of the foundation principles of weight management. Please listen through this again. If you have questions, otherwise comment and I'll respond to them after the presentation. And we're excited about your weight loss journey. We want to help you, and let us know how we can be helpful to you. So again, thanks for joining us. Give us some feedback if this was helpful. Let us know what we can do better, other topics that you're interested in. Next month, I believe our dietitian, Megan Kennedy, is going to be talking about some nutrition things. And every month we'll have someone different presenting different topics. So please give us some feedback. Write me some questions. I'll respond to them. And again, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming. Good night.